that dominated these lands and so much more. Now, the Broken Isles exist today as a scarred and fractured landmass. It's divided into 6 distinct areas: Val'sharah, Stormheim, Azuna, High Mountain, Suramar, and Thaldranath. Alrighty, let's take a look at our first zone, Val'sharah. So look at one of our key concept pieces for the zone. Now, Val'sharah is a beautiful, densely forested druidic paradise, but there's also a darkness creeping into Val'sharah. The Emerald Nightmare is here, and it's begun to consume massive parts of the zone. Here's a look at the in-game map for the zone. You can see it represents a significant portion of the west coast of the Broken Isles. And so Val'sharah has been the hidden and somewhat forgotten heart of Druidism on Azeroth for many generations. It's here that Malfurion first met the demigod Cenarius and was trained as a druid. And it's here that will help Malfurion to track the source of the nightmare as it begins to corrupt so much of this beautiful land. Which leads me to Shaladrisil, a once glorious world tree at the heart of the forest that served as a gateway to the Emerald Dream. Shaladrisil has now become a twisted and tainted, monstrous distortion of its former awesome grandeur. Another important landmark within Val'sharah is the haunted ancient Night Elven fortress of Blackrook Hold. And if you know a little bit about the history of the time period of the War of the Ancients, you'll know that Blackrook played a pivotal role in the first war with the Legion. And coming into Val'sharah, you're going to be meeting up with some of the most revered and ancient Archdruids of Azeroth. Now, the guy on screen you see here is the Archdruid Elithir. He's a Grand Master Treant Druid and one of the 3 key Archdruids that you'll adventure with in Val'sharah. Now, the Nightmare Lord, Xavius, has sent his Satyr legions flooding into Val'sharah. And this is just a glimpse at 2 of the new Satyr types that you'll find within the zone. This is some concept work for the Nightmare Dragons. Now, Nightmare Dragons were all once green dragons, guardians and protectors of the Emerald Dream that are now fully corrupted by the Nightmare. And here's a look at some of their in-game models. But Val'sharah, as a zone, has a very druid-centric theme. And you're going to be running into a lot of native druids that live within Val'sharah. And so we've got all new awesome skins and models for creatures like keepers, dryads, hippogriffs, and of course, these guys. So I know this is going to make some of the druids happy out there. The new Moonkin models are really cool. They're super faithful to the old original you can see on the left there. But they've got a ton of character detail. They're really expressive. But I know there's a druid form that's universal to all druids that's been in need of a little sprucing up, we'll say. So here's a look at your all-new sea lion swim form. So now I'm going to hand you off to Gary, and he's going to take you on a deeper look inside the world of Val'sharah.
Thanks, Jules. My name is Gary, and I'm going to talk to you about the process that we all went through to create the world of Legion. I'm going to show you a lot of concept art, and I even have some video of our latest versions of every zone. So let's continue where Jules left off with Val'sharah. So this is meant to be a druidic paradise. So in order to make this, we wanted to create a true fantasy forest. So every time we start a new zone, we create a concept to try to illustrate that vision. And this was that concept. This piece is our foundation piece. From here, lots of people can do a lot of work from this concept because this gives us our palette, it gives us our shape, and it even gives us our mood. So from here, we can start to build the zone. and we can start to build these druid structures. Because all the structures in Val-Sharah are almost indistinguishable from trees, so it was really important that the art team and the design team work really close together to create this druid world. Another pretty substantial part of Val-Sharah is this. This is an early concept of Blackrook Hold, carved from the very rock with a small town that lives in its shadow. So like every good story, Val-Sharah has a cool twist, and in this case, the twist is the nightmare. So we all had a lot of fun trying to illustrate what the heck the nightmare was going to be, how it was going to look. Was it going to move through the forest like a fire? Was it going to be like a big force field? We knew we wanted it to appear evil. We knew we wanted it to look dangerous. And we knew we wanted it to affect everything it touches. Another big challenge was this, the world tree Shaladroso. This was a giant tree that we had to see from almost an entire zone away, but still keep that unique feel of the nightmare that we were still trying to work on. So let's take a look at a video of our latest version of this zone.
Alrighty, Stormheim. So this is one of our key inspiration pieces for Stormheim here. Now Stormheim has this rugged, natural beauty to the highlands and the deep ravines, but the land itself is a super dangerous and treacherous land. And it's that treacherous nature of the landscape itself that really closely embodies the spirit of the Vrykul that called this place home. Here's a look at the in-game map for Stormheim. Now, this is on the other side of the continent, and it represents a good portion of the east coast of the Broken Isles. And after an awesome intro scenario that both factions take part in simultaneously, we're going to come into Stormheim and pick up on the story of the Vrykul that left Northrend thousands of years ago, well before the events of Wrath of the Lich King. And they came here in search of their true gods. We're going to compete against the Vrykul God King as he seeks to gain access to the halls of valor. We're going to dig deep into the origins of the Kavaldir and the Valkyr. And we're also going to gain access to Helheim and the halls of valor. Easily two of the best dungeons we have ever done. And Ian's going to take us through those in a bit of detail a little later on. Now there's a range of new Vrykul to meet throughout Stormheim. We refer to these guys as the Mystic Vrykul. Now these guys are religious zealots and masters of rune magics. And as I mentioned, we're going to take a deep look at the Valkyr. And there's a number of different Valkyr to meet here. The one you see on screen here is one of the new Ascendant Valkyr models that you're going to meet within the Halls of Valor. Now this is some concept work for the Vrykul God King, Skovald. And here's a look at his in-game model. Now you can see Skovald's a brutal warrior king, and he's been juiced up by his newfound Legion allies. And you're going to cross paths with this guy several times. And now we're also going to introduce you to a fledgling new dragonflight known as the Storm Dragons. And the Storm Dragons make their lairs and their homes within the mountain peaks of both Stormheim and Suramar. And I'm going to hand you back to Gary. We're going to take a look at some of the details of Stormheim.
Cool. Thanks, Jules. So since the Vrykul are the main inhabitants of Stormheim, we wanted the zone to feel edgy and bold and sort of larger than life. After all, this is a stronghold of the Vrykul, so we wanted it to feel big and have that strength of the Vrykul. So we created this concept. So this is another one of our foundation pieces. From this piece, our guys can start to work on the zone. Look at these great fall colors and the big edginess of the cliffs. This is a piece that we can use to start to build the zone. We could even start to explore these different colors with our different pine trees and different yellows and our silhouettes. This piece was our piece that we used to do our environment, so we could see the relationship between our yellow trees and our interesting pines. From here, we could create the established buildings of the Vrykul. So here, these are established structures. These aren't the camps that we've seen with the Vrykul before. This is permanent structures. After all, this is a very sacred land for the Vrykul, full of ancient ruins and lots of mystery. So here's a video of our latest version of this zone. Cool.
Okay, Azuna. So this concept piece for Azuna that you're looking at here was actually one of the very first concept pieces that was done for the Broken Isles as a whole. And in this early phase, we're trying to capture the look of the massive ancient devastation that was caused by the Sundering that had such a dramatic effect on the Broken Isles as a whole. But for Azuna specifically, we're trying to capture this element, for the interior at least, that it's a serene island paradise. But the reality is, once you start exploring the ruins of Azuna, it's now a cursed and haunted land. Just look at the game map for Azuna. Now it's all the way down under in the southwestern point. It's not Australia. And so much of the devastation of Azuna actually occurred prior to the Sundering. The elven civilization here was annihilated by Queen Ashara herself in a single colossal display of power. And this is the mystery of the zone of Azuna, why she killed and cursed thousands of her own people.
Jules, wait, before you move on, can you go back one? I'm sorry. Just go.
How rude.
Just one more, really quick. This is fast, but it's worth it. Okay, this screenshot is awesome. You didn't do anything special to get this screenshot, did you? Just like we're in-game, I imagine. So a screenshot like this would have been impossible just months ago. In this expansion, you can see up to 3 times as far than you could before. It's awesome. This adds a whole new level to working on the game. So I'm super sorry, but it's pretty significant. I thought it was a really cool tech thing that really just makes this expansion one of the best we've ever done.
No, it's sorry. Awesome point. Some of the new rendering tech for our far clip and LOD stuff is awesome. Opens up a ton of new macro compositional abilities that we've never had access to before. So it's really good stuff. It's a good point. So in Azuna, we're also going to be meeting up with the small, dying remnants of the blue dragonflight. And Azuna's rich in arcane energies. And the blue flight have found a refuge here among some of the raw ley energies that pull and pocket certain parts of Azuna. Now, Azuna is also home to a large independent landmass known as the Warden's Isle. And the Warden's Isle is also home to the Vault of the Wardens that Eric briefly mentioned as being a part of the Demon Hunter intro experience. And so, as I mentioned, the land and its people to this day still suffer under a terrible curse. And as you explore the vast elven ruins that litter the landscape of Azuna, you're certainly going to run into some of these guys. Now, this is a creature we refer to as the Spectre. And if you've explored elven ruins throughout Azeroth, and particularly Kalimdor, you would have no doubt ran into a banshee or two in your time, I'm sure. This is actually the male counterpart to the banshee, sometimes internally referred to as the Manshee, but his real name's Spectre, but everyone just calls him Manshee. Now, in the present timeline, Queen Ashara has sent an elite Naga force here to recover a very important relic. And the concept you see on screen here is for a new Naga brute. Now, these guys and girls are huge, hulking monstrosities, many times larger than the Naga that you may be familiar with. But those same Naga have all received all new models, all new high-res models. New skins, new weapons, new armor, the whole bit. They look awesome in-game. Now, Ashara has also allied herself with a local sea giant kingdom. And the sea giants in Azuna are here in greater numbers, found like nowhere else on Azeroth. And here's a look at just a couple of their in-game models. And you can see the guy in the back left there has like the bulk of a galleon just as a shoulder piece, so it gives you some idea of the scale of these guys. They're pretty damn big. Now, this pretty lady is a creature we refer to as the Wrath of Ashara, and that the image doesn't really do her scale without any justice, without any context here, but she is gigantic. She's truly massive. And last but not least, here's some concept work for the Warden Warriors and their owl companions. And you're going to find them throughout the Warden's Isle and scattered throughout the Broken Isles in a few small enclaves and holdouts. So now let's take a look at some of the details of Azuna.
Cool. Thanks, Jules. So like all of the zones, Azuna is one of my favorites, just like all of them. So I have to tell you, we went through a lot of iteration when we started working on Azuna. And it wasn't until we came upon a new theme, which was a Greek Isle theme. That's when we created this concept. Again, this is another foundation piece. With this, we had our stylized olive trees and our nice cypress and the blue sky and big white clouds that we could put along the horizon. With a piece like this, we can start to build the zone and start to make iterations on other POIs, like this haunted forest, or if you can see below, the warm and cool variants for the zone. But the biggest iteration to happen had to be with the ancient Night Elf architecture. Now, we've seen some of these columns and platforms before in the game, but never really more than that. So we really had to expand this kit. So we started to add these wavy Art Nouveau lines and lattice patterns to domes and bigger shapes. We really love this concept. And from here, we created this piece. Now, this is not really a concept. This is a style guide. Lots of people on the team can use this. This gives us a guide for creating anything that the ancient Night Elves would need. If you think about it, we have over 80 artists and over 60 designers. A piece like this is super important to keep everything looking as though one guy did it. All right, so let's take a quick look at a video of the latest version of Azuna.
Okay, High Mountain. So the High Mountain mountain peak that you see on screen here is easily one of the single largest mountain peaks on all of Azeroth. And the high mountain range that surrounds this massive mountain is full of untamed wilds deep canyons, fertile valleys. It goes all the way up to icy peaks. Here's a look at the in-game map for High Mountain, and you can see it's kind of central to the continent and all the way in the far north. And the peaks and valleys of the High Mountain range have been the domain of 3 ancient Tauren clans for millennia. And the clans that live here are actually the direct descendants of the Tauren that fought in the War of the Ancients. And united for many years, the 3 clans, Rivermane, Skyhorn, and Blood Totem, have lived in peace for the last several generations, until very recently, when the cave-dwelling Drogbar have risen up and stolen their most sacred artifact. Now, this has fractured the unity of the Tauren clans, and the Drogbar have seized this opportunity to strike at the Tauren in an attempt to claim all the Tauren territories for themselves and rule all of High Mountain. So the Drogbar, they're a cave-dwelling culture that were once enslaved to the great dragon aspect Neltharion. They're a shamanistic race with great elemental control over earth magics. And their strong, brutish appearance can kind of hide their cleverness and their deep attunement to the land. And you're going to meet a wide variety of Drogbar throughout High Mountain. Now, this is a look at one of the Drogbar chieftain. You're going to cross paths with this guy several times, and ultimately, I think you're going to come into contact with him in a dungeon in Neltharion's lair. Now, this is another type of Drogbar. Now, these guys are a little bit more diminutive, a little bit smaller than their bigger, burlier brothers and sisters. But they're no less dangerous. These guys in particular are skillful shamanistic warriors. And the High Mountain range is infested with all sorts of territorial creatures, like these brand new alpine harpies here. And the creatures that you find in High Mountain, like these harpies and the addon, they're going to be significantly larger and more aggressive than the cousins of these types of creatures that you may have found elsewhere on Azeroth. But High Mountain is also rich with wild natural beauty, where all manner of beautiful creatures graze the fields, like these awesome moose here, cousin to the High Mountain Tauren, and they're cute little babies. Or calves, I should say. And here's a look at the High Mountain Tauren themselves. Now, you can obviously see their most distinctive feature are these antler-like horns that they sport. Now, both the males and the females have them. The females are a little bit more petite. They have a range of different horns. And if you take a look at the male here, you can see that his horns, his antlers, are inscribed and decorated. And they do this to define and designate a particular clan affiliation, or even the rank within a particular clan. Now let's take a look at some of the awesomeness of High Mountain.
Awesome. Thanks, Jules. All right, let's talk about High Mountain. Absolutely one of my favorite zones. Absolutely. That's the truth. So when we started working on High Mountain, we were greatly influenced by the Swiss Alps and Yosemite, but not just for the zone itself, but for the Tauren as well, because we wanted to advance the Tauren culture, but not too much that it became unrecognizable from their traditional tribal look that we really all love. So we also wanted to do a traditional pine forest, but we didn't want it to be so typical. So we explored some different shapes with their canopy and their unique, silhouettes for their trunk. And we came up with this piece. This piece became our foundation. From here, we could start to build pieces that would go along with the zone. We have our trees, we have our sky. We could even think about how to incorporate other creatures into the zone. Look at these great concepts for the Tauren. This was awesome. Working on this zone, someone said that this working here was like the best harmony they felt between the design team and the art team, much like the harmony between the Tauren themselves. And we thought that was really cool. It was really fun working on this zone. Some zones, just everything